Cambridge Mobile Telematics is one of the world's leading telematics and analytics providers for insurers, aiming to make the world's roads and drivers safer. Their AI-powered DriveWell Fusion platform gathers sensor data from millions of IoT devices and fuses them with contextual data to create a unified view of driver, vehicle and road risk. Find out how CMT helps improve safety for millions of drivers around the world every day. Please welcome Cambridge Mobile Telematics.
Hi, nice to meet you. My name is Ivailo, and I'm representing CMT, or Cambridge Mobile Telematics. I'm a solutions engineer. And a little bit about us. Cambridge Mobile Telematics is the biggest telematics provider worldwide. So we work with auto insurance companies, we work with auto OEMs, we work with fleet companies, gig companies, and also some governments as well. Today's presentation is about how engagement and coaching and targeted kind of advices to drivers can actually help influence drivers' behavior, can help save insurance costs, and also help save people's lives. So we've done a number of studies about risky behaviors throughout the years, and one of the riskiest behaviors is actually distracted driving. So we have actuaries on our staff, and it's been shown actuarially that this is a very important variable in pricing. And we found that 34% of drivers, right before a crash, they were found to be distracted, to have interacted with the phone, or to be on a call, either by holding the phone or being in a hands-free call. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that it's very important with distracted driving to actually know what type of distracted driving it is, because each one of these carries a different source of risk, shall we say it in this way. We've seen from our data that distracted driving is very regional, it's local. So here it's actually a comparison between England, Scotland, and Wales. So we see some regional differences and some spikes for these kind of throughout the years, or throughout the months rather. But what's also interesting is just the scale of the problem. If you see the vertical axis, you can see that the share of trips with some form of distraction is very high. It's between 17 and 20%, which is quite high. And apart from kind of regional differences, we've seen that this is a very seasonal phenomenon as well. So we've seen distracted driving peak around on weekends and around public holidays. And even here, I guess you could recognize it's the coronation weekend in the UK. So there's been a spike in distracted driving. So quite rich information that can be gleaned from the data. And the reason why it's important is because we've shown that this leads to insurance costs. So for every 10% increase in distracted driving, we've shown that the crash rate increases by 1.4%. The reason why this is important is that, so in the US, in this particular case, distracted driving increased by about 25% over the last couple of years. And we estimate that this brought about 420,000 incremental crashes, 1,000 incremental deaths, and about 10 billion in economic damages in 2022 alone. So it's actually quite important, not just from an insurance perspective, but it's important because it brings about societal costs as well. So how can this be improved, or how can telematics help in this case? So we've done many studies throughout the years, and we've seen how kind of feedback and structured coaching could help improve driving behavior and reduce the risky behaviors. So I'm just outlining one of these here. This was a study that was done with a top 10 insurer, top tier insurer. And basically, we monitored the risky behaviors of drivers over several months. And what's interesting is that structured engagement helped the drivers regardless of how risky they were. So the riskiest drivers, the kind of medium risk drivers and the safer drivers all improved. But what was interesting is that the riskiest drivers improved the most. So the share of or their distracted driving decreased by 25%. And then the harsh braking rate decreased by 15%. Even though others improved as well, we thought that it's quite notable. So distracted driving is an important risk characteristic, and another one is speeding, or rather overspeeding, or speeding above the speed limit or above the contextual speed for the specific road segment. And this is important because this is a big contributor to crash severity. So speeding has been found to be linked to about 29% of traffic fatalities, deaths, and it's a big driver behind severity, or a big driver behind average losses. What we thought was interesting also is that there's an interplay between risk factors here. So we've seen that distracted driving is affecting speeding and is therefore affecting the crash severity. So it's increasing the speed at which the customer was driving at the time of the accident. So this is point number one. But the second one is that the different types of distracted driving were affecting the speeding at the time of the crash differently. So if people were on the phone, holding the phone with their hand, so handheld calls, these were contributing the most to the excess speed. They were actually increasing the speed by, they were associated with an increase of speed by 31%. And then other distracted behaviors were also affecting speeding, albeit to a lesser extent. They're not shown here, but the, shall we say, least risky one was the hands-free calls. So we've seen risky behaviors. Now, what to do about these? So the first thing to do, one thing that we've implemented in market with some insurers is real-time coaching. And you can think of this as kind of a real-time alert as the risky event is happening. So if I slam on the harsh brake, there's immediately an alert on the phone, and there's voice that's kind of highlighting that this was a risky behavior. And this is important because a lot of times drivers don't realize the risky behavior as it happens. And if you just present it on a map after the trip, which is kind of the standard way of presenting the feedback, it's not immediately obvious to drivers whether this was risky behavior or what did they do that was wrong. So we've seen that this is actually very impactful, and we've seen that 72% of drivers said that this influenced their behavior. And what's also important to note is that we've done a lot of work to optimize this feedback. In other words, to present it in such a way that we highlight the risky behavior, but we also do it gently so that the drivers keep using the solution and they are retained, which is ultimately kind of the goal, is to do no harm first. We've seen that this reduces harsh brakes by 34%, which is actually quite high. And the reason why this is important is that we estimate that this is able to bring down bodily injury crash frequency by about 5%, and also bring down loss costs, which is frequency times severity, by about 5%, which is quite meaningful for insurance companies. So we've seen behavior change. When it comes to engagement, there's 4 ways how to bring about engagement with customers. And the first one is targeted messaging. So automated campaigns based on kind of triggers that are individual for every person. The second one is rewards. And you can think of kind of small but frequent reward amounts being added to the rewards balance of a customer if they're driving in a safe way. This has been incredibly great at influencing driver behavior, and there's many case studies on this. Then there is promoting sustainable insurance, which is more and more a hot topic, especially here in Europe, but in other parts of the world as well. So highlighting the savings in CO2 emissions or the reduction in CO2 emissions based on the safer driving, and highlighting the savings in the fuel consumption, again, based on the safe behavior. And the fourth one is gamification. So it's contests, it's badges, it's streaks, it's leaderboards, it's ways to compete. We've also seen a major trend towards embedding telematics solutions and different use cases within the core insurance apps of customers. And the reason why they do that is they actually find valuable not to have to manage like 5 different apps, but to have everything in one app. And they're even offering some of these use cases for their whole policyholder book, not just to their UBI customers or usage-based insurance customers, but for the whole book or for the whole portfolio that they have, for all of the kind of business lines they have. And kind of one prime example here is crash and claims, so automated crash. So this is basically the proposition that somebody is watching over me in the time of need. The solution is able to detect automatically the crash and is through an integration with emergency assistance or roadside assistance. Basically, somebody is able to help the customer in the time of need. So one example is Progressive. It's an amazing company. I used to work for Progressive in the past many years ago in the US, and they've embedded telematics, or they've embedded several use cases into their core app. So what they're using telematics for is better assessment of risks, automated crash, but also claims. So there's a lot of claims data that helps adjusters, makes their job easier, and it ultimately decreases the claim cycle time, which is kind of the goal in this case. They've had amazing success with telematics. So to put this in context, years ago, this was the number 4 insurer in the US. Now they're number 2, and within striking distance of the number 1. And they're very public about all of this in their reports, but they've been an early proponent. They've been with us since 2015. And kind of they're seeing UBI uptake of increase of 40% compared to years ago. They've grown tremendously in an industry that's essentially stagnant, and they've done this at a constant loss ratio, and the target combined ratio is 96. But I guess this has been kept for a while, so this is quite remarkable. Very shrewd pricing strategies as well. So there's this philosophical debate about what to do with riskiest drivers. They've chosen, after a long time of no surcharging, they've chosen to surcharge aggressively. And they've slowly seen their mix of business shift towards better risks. So high retention for safer drivers, riskiest drivers see lower retention. We could chat after this as well. It's very interesting what they've done. So in review, distracted driving is a big problem, and kind of distracted driving is bringing about costs for insurers, but also for society. When it comes to all risky behaviors, not just distraction, feedback and engagement are a good way to decrease these risky behaviors and improve the driving of the individuals. And this ultimately affects not just the euros or the dollars in claims payouts or kind of decreases in these, but it helps society, it helps the people as well. It minimizes the suffering, which is good. And so there's been, the last point is that there's been a big movement towards kind of scaling these and putting these into the core apps of insurance companies. 2 quick slides about CMT. Our mission is to make the roads and drivers safer, and we do this by connecting drivers and vehicles. We do this by innovating at scale, using machine learning, and then we share the value after that. We share the value with insurance companies, But we also share the value with individuals or end customers so that they can learn how to drive better. The best drivers can earn discounts, and then all the drivers could be coached how to drive better, which is quite good. And then, in conclusion, we are the largest telematics service provider in the world. So we've deployed more than 120 programs, 450 people. 100 of these are in Europe, with 2 head offices in Europe. More than 36 million customers served, more than 8 million driving around with crash enabled. So this is very much in market. It's very much utilized at scale. And I'll not go through the logos on the right, but we work with insurers big and small. We work with many leaders in different markets. And also both in countries or in markets where average premiums are higher, where average premiums are lower. We have experience in all of these use cases, in all of these contexts. So yeah, with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention.